you all for attending this morning's session. I don't know what time it is where everybody else is right now, but for us, it's the mornings. So we appreciate you guys clocking in wherever we are in the world. And today, I hope you guys take some value in our session this morning. We're going to be talking about banking in Canada and different ways you can open that account and get access to funds when you guys do arrive in the country. So I'm going to start off. My name is Divine Tureth, and I'm a banking advisor with RBC on campus. And RBC is one of the major banks within Canada, and like Tyler did say, we're located right adjacent to campus and just across the street from New College. So we're really close by, and our goal on campus is to support students through providing advice and guidance. We're here today to speak about financial literacy, but we also do speak to 4 different segments of advice throughout the year. If you ever needed assistance on career development, life skills, getting more integrated in the community, we're also here to help. But today's focus is financial literacy and how do we open those accounts when we start off in Canada. Well, I'm joined today with Kai. Our team at RBC on campus is comprised of 3 members. So myself, Kai, and our manager, Chantal, who's unfortunately away today.
As an international student, coming to Canada can be exciting, but also at the same time can be very daunting or very busy while you arrive. So while you're getting to know your new surroundings, that's in Toronto or in New College, the last thing you want to think about is your finances. So this is why I'm glad that you guys are here today, so we can show you how we can help to make things a little bit easier for those newcomers. So today we'll be covering 5 topics, as you can see on the screen. We'll be talking about how and what you need to know to open a Canadian bank account, and we'll talk about briefly talk about different accounts as well. And we'll also go over understanding the different bank cards that we have in Canada, ways to access your money, receiving funds from banks that's outside of Canada, and also how and who's there to help you set up for your success. So briefly introduce some Canadian banking. So all banks in Canada are regulated by the federal government, and banks in Canada can be generally divided into 2 categories: the Big 5. So Royal Bank of Canada, RBC is one, TD Bank, Bank of Nova Scotia, Bank of Montreal, and CIBC. So these are all they're called Big 5 because they're multinational corporations, and then the second category is the second tier banks that are largely domestic within Canada. So some of them might include National Bank, Laurentian Bank, and Tangerine, etc. So because all banks are regulated, so most of the information that we discuss today should be applicable to all of them, not just specifically to RBC. And because you have all those options in terms of choosing your bank, you want to find out which is the best bank in Canada. Well, depending on who you ask, that answer will likely be different because of their own experiences. But here's some of the things to consider when choosing your bank. First and foremost, of course, account and fees. Usually most banks offer free accounts for students, so definitely take advantage of that, and also make sure the account features or their offers matches what your transaction needs. Second of all, convenience. So definitely choose a bank that will be convenient for you to either take out cash at an ATM or go into a branch to see an advisor. So talking about the same thing with a real estate, location. Make sure that your bank is easily accessible when you need it. And because of our current pandemic, a lot of things are being hosted through online, like this new Journeys program. Digital technology enablement is quite important for a bank as well. So make sure that the bank that you choose offers a lot of digital solutions, so you don't have to go into the branch to complete a transaction. So some of the features might include digitally deposit your check through the mobile app, or transfer funds using Interact e-transfer over email or text message. And of course, one of the things to consider would be service and advice. Banks are there to help you to grow financially, so make sure that you're able to receive the best advice and service from your own bank. And last but not least, current promotions. Of course, a lot of banks, they do have promotions going on around the year to try to attract customers. Right now, of course, picking your bank, it doesn't hurt to get some awards or gifts at the beginning, right, for opening the account. So currently, I think, for example, RBC, we do offer the $60 cash to any students who open the account at RBC. So definitely do your research on different banks, on different accounts, and what their current promotions are, and of course go with your most preferred bank.
Thank you so much, Kai. So when we look into opening your account in Canada, there are two most common bank accounts that you would typically open. One would be a checking account, the other would be a savings account. Now, checkings account. You may not have heard that term before, but it's similar to perhaps a current deposit account, as it may be known where everyone is from back home. Now, these are the accounts that you would typically open first when you arrive, but are really used for your everyday purchases and everyday transactions. Now, the second account that people would open, and the most common account, would be savings account. Now, this is a great account to have for non-day-to-day expenses. It's a great place to keep money that you're not going to use tomorrow, that you may want to save for a rainy day or for future expenses. A lot of students, I think, would use this account to keep tuition funds. If they're looking for a lump sum to pay off their living expenses and tuition throughout the year, it's a great place to keep it. And in a savings account, you will earn what's called deposit interest, meaning the money you have on deposit with the bank, you will earn a small amount of money on those funds for keeping them in the account. Better to always keep funds in a savings account if you're not going to use them. Might as well make a bit of money back on those funds sitting around doing nothing. Now, like Kai did say, most banks do offer specialized student-designed products for students. And the main benefit for this is most of them will give you the opportunity to save money on fees and transactions. A lot of them will come with additional perks, so always make sure you're doing your research before you make the final decision. Now, when we get into what you need to open a bank account, when we look at the screen here, you're going to see three different bubbles: photo ID, proof of address, and proof of student status. So in terms of a photo ID, typically we're going to require some way to verify who you are. So being an international student, that would be something like your passport and your study permit. Passport verifies your identity. Study permit will verify your student status, your international student status. Some banks will require this to verify where you'll be residing when you come to Canada. It's a great way to ensure that we're sending out all of your documents to the right place, as well as things like your debit or your credit card in the future. We need to be sure we're sending that to your address, not somebody else's. And finally, proof of student status. So because you're getting the benefit of student banking, we do typically need to verify that you are enrolled in a university or college. So being at U of T, typically most banks would ask for you to log into your Acorn portal in order to pull up things like your school schedule or payment receipts to verify that you are attending school at University of Toronto. Now, there are some restrictions in place. I understand that when international students are coming into the country in the next couple of months, there's typically a 14-day isolation period. And we understand that most students would like to get a lot of these things done, including opening their accounts, as soon as possible. Most banks out there do have the opportunity to open them after a 14-day period. And what they would require is you to come in after your isolation period, come in with typically a face mask as well, as that is common by law in Toronto currently, just to ensure that social distancing is met and we're all staying safe. Now, if that's a hassle to have to wait those 14 days, and I completely understand, it's a lot to deal with when you're moving to a new city, let alone a new country. So us at RBC, we do have a way to open these accounts if you guys did want remotely. And some of you may have the option. To our understanding, I believe we're the only one currently, but please, we do ask that everyone today does their research before they make the final decision to be sure they're in the right bank and account and best fit when you guys arrive.
Typically, there are two basic bank cards that you can see on the screen. The first one is the debit card. When you open a bank account, you will automatically be given a debit card. At RBC, it's also referred to as a client card. At other banks, it might be a different name. I believe at TD, it's called the Access Card. But nonetheless, they're categorized as debit cards. So you can use this card to gain access to your online banking, to make purchases in stores, or withdraw cash from a branch or the ATM. So think of it as the key to your bank accounts. And when you transact using the debit card, the money is deducted from your account immediately. So you have to have enough funds in your account for the transaction to go through. And the second card that you might encounter in Canada will be a credit card. So it's very common to use a credit card to make everyday purchases, like in stores, online, or even renting a car using a credit card. But most importantly, getting a Canadian credit card is probably one of the best ways to start building Canadian credit history. So some of you are probably not familiar with credit or credit history. Having a good credit history in Canada is very important, just because your credit history is part of your financial reputation, just like similar to your report card at school. So it's a picture of how well you manage your money. So whether you've paid your bills on time, whether what your current debts are, and whether you've missed any payments. So over time, as the years go on, so this data will form a pattern of how well you pay or don't pay your debt, and that pattern is created into a credit report. So and with a credit report, anytime you apply for a loan or a credit card, lenders will take a look at your credit report to help them decide whether if they should approve the application or not. At times as well, when if you decide to move out of residence to get off-campus housing, some landlords will also look at it as well, just to see whether if you're a person who will be always paying their rent on time or not. And then after you graduate, some employers may also take a look at your credit report as well before they want to hire you. There's a third card that's not on the screen, is called the virtual Visa debit. So the simplest way to explain what that card is that it's a debit card that allows you to use for online purchases if your debit card doesn't have that feature. So not everyone are qualified for a credit card, but most people right nowadays wants the ability to make online purchases. So sometimes your debit card doesn't have that feature. So that's when you can apply for a virtual Visa debit, where it's a debit card but allows you to complete online purchases or transactions.
So now we're going to speak about ways to now that we know about the cards and the account. How do you actually look at your money, access it, and see how much you have on deposit or what transactions you've done in the past month? Ways to access your money can include things like online banking. Every major bank, or every bank typically these days, would have access to your accounts online. The great thing about this is you can access them wherever you are, whether you're here, whether you're back home, you're on the go. You can access your accounts from your mobile phone, or if you're at home on your laptop if you'd like. The main thing here is finding the way that you like to bank and that is most convenient to you. Personally, myself, I find digital apps and digital solutions make it so much easier. I can see my transactions, I can see my balances while I'm waiting in line at a store. I can transfer money to a friend if they paid for dinner to pay them back. Almost everything you can do these days in terms of banking can all be done online. Now, when it comes to ATMs, ATMs are automated teller machines, ways that you can access cash directly on campus. Now, around U of T and the surrounding community, there are a number of ATMs, and all across different campus buildings, I believe there's at least one ATM for each of the major banks. So you shouldn't have an issue locating and being able to access cash on the go wherever you are across campus. Now, when you are using something like an ATM, there is a feature for security called a personal identification number. So this is kind of like your password that you'd use to authenticate yourself whenever you're making a purchase in store or looking to withdraw cash from the ATM system. This is a number that you should always protect and should be personal to you and not shared with others. Now, if you are, outside of traditional banking hours, if you're outside the hours of 9 to 5 o'clock, there are still ways to access, advice. And that's by, the old school telephone banking. So all major banks in Canada will have some sort of advice center where you can call in if you need any sort of advice where you can't do that in person. These centers are there to provide you with access to specialists and to really help you find goals and help you on track. A real benefit of this as well is they do have preferred language service through these advice centers. So if you do feel more comfortable speaking in your home language, by all means, they do have that availability at all major banks. Now, in terms of protecting yourself, this is something I do want to breach upon. So we live in a very digital age, and with this, there is a big opportunity for fraud in the future. So what you always want to make sure to do is you are protecting yourself, protecting the money that you have, because you've either worked hard for it and you need that to pay for your schooling. You never want to share your PIN like I did say earlier. You never want to take it, write it down anywhere, because if you do lose your wallet and it's in there, somebody has access to all of your money, and you don't want to make yourself vulnerable to that. Second, you never want to provide your personal information. So things like your bank accounts, your online banking passwords. If anyone were to call or email you asking for these from the bank, they're typically not from the bank, and I would say that's fraudulent. So if you ever had an inquiry through email or a call, and they're asking for sensitive information, I would say hang up that call and call your bank immediately to make sure that if it was them calling, you can be confirmed and you can be sure you're not giving away some of that valuable information. I would say as well, if you guys do have documents from your banks, whether it's your account statements, your opening packages, etc., keep them in a safe place. If you don't want to, if you want to get rid of, be sure you're shredding these documents just to protect yourself. Now, if anybody wants to learn more about fraud protection in Canada, we're not going to breach too far into that, but please reach out to us afterwards when we have our contact information up. And we're happy to walk anyone through with protect yourself when you guys arrive in the country.
We've talked about the different accounts that you can have, different type of bank card that you can have at the bank. Now get to the meaty part where how you can receive money from overseas. So typically, we'll go over this briefly, but typically it's done through a wire transfer, where you will provide information to the sender, so most likely your relative or your family, and then they will go to their bank in their respective countries, provide the information of your bank account, and they will be able to complete this wire transfer. So on the screen is some of the information that you will need to provide to the sender. We'll briefly go over what type of information you need. So of course, the first and foremost, your complete name and address, so that the other bank knows who to send it to. And the next thing, it will be your bank information, so that could include the branch number or transit number and your bank account number. So that way, when your bank receives the funds, it knows which account to deposit the money into. And probably the most and important information is at the very bottom, the SWIFT code. So this is how a foreign financial institution identifies your bank. So in this case, the SWIFT code for RBC is ROYCAT2. So this is how another bank that's outside of Canada identifies RBC Royal Bank in Canada. And then, of course, when you open your account at the bank, make sure to ask the advisor for wire transfer information. So this way, you'll be able to complete everything at one go, and then send the information to your family to receive the funds. Okay, so setting up for success. Ultimately, each person is responsible for their own finances, just like your schoolwork. But we're here to provide the necessary advice and guidance along that. Especially, it's important for international students, where you will receive a large sum of money from your family or parents to cover your expenses at the beginning of the school year, and you'll have to try to manage it to last it for the whole year, so that you're not eating ketchup packs and ice cubes towards the end of the school year. And this is where having a really good budget and sticking to it will help in accomplishing that task. And remember that we are always here to help. If you have any questions about your finances and need help creating a budget, or uh, help you keep track on the budget, we're here for you. So don't feel free to reach out to us. We'll have our contact information, I believe, in the next couple of slides. So make sure to take it down, and then email us if you have any questions. Um, and that's another thing too. You don't have to bank with RBC to get advice from us, because we are part of the on-campus team. We are here for students, regardless of where you bank.
So, before we get into the questions, I just want to do a bit of a recap of what we spoke about today. So, a recap of today's advice topic. Were first off, how do we open the account? What are the requirements? What do we need when we first walk in or do that virtual account opening? Two, understanding Canadian bank cards. So, what cards you can use when you first enter the country, and the benefits of each. One can be used in stores, one can be used online. Ways to access your money. So finding ways to be able to review your accounts on the go, online banking, mobile banking on your mobile phone, ATM systems to get cash on the go, and of course, advice centers if you ever need further advice and can't make it into a typical bank branch. We reviewed receiving funds, so the details we would need to receive our funds from abroad into our Canadian accounts, and of course, things that we should keep in mind when we're trying to set ourselves up for future financial success. So now I want to open it up to the group. I want to have an open discussion. And if you guys have any questions, doesn't matter what they are, no silly or dumb questions here today, we're all here to learn together. So I do ask, if you guys do have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Or if you'd like as well, you could let us know and turn on your mics if that's an opportunity as well. So please, by all means. Oh, I see we have one question here from Caillou. So Caillou, there is the opportunity to get a credit card in Canada. What you would require with most major banks is we would require one to verify who you are. So we need to make sure that we have your passport. We need to make sure that we have your study permit as well. And that ensures that we know how long you're spending in the country. What would be required for this also is proof of your enrollment status. So most banks will have policies in place specifically for students. And what these would entail is they need to verify certain documents, be sure that you do have your student status, and that you will be residing here for a longer period of time. So those are typically the requirements you would need when you are applying for a student credit card. And I do believe at all major banks, you should have that opportunity to do so as an international student.
And I guess to further that answer, depending on the bank, and as well as whatever program for students or international students that they have, you might be asked to apply for a secured credit card. So there are two type of, I guess, different ways for you to apply for a credit card. One is the unsecured way, and the other one is the secured format. So the unsecured way is just that you qualify automatically as a international student with a certain credit card limit, and the other one is the secured program. So what that means is that let's say if you're applying for a credit card with a limit of $1,000, the bank might ask you to hold $1,000 of your cash as collateral. So so pretty much the cash is secured against the credit card, because of your international student status. Some banks may ask for that additional security before approving that credit card to you. And we got a question from Kanishk. So the question is, I'm currently overseas doing my first semester online, so I just want to check whether it is possible to open a Canadian bank account while staying outside Canada. I don't believe we have a clear answer at the moment, but the current procedure that for us to open an account, we do require a Canadian address for us to set up the account completely. but I believe we do have a international group or non-resident group that can help you open an account while you're outside of Canada. Adam, could you speak more into that part? I know you're more familiar with that.
Of course, of course. This is specifically for RBC. I know that we do have a group of international advisors, and their roles are specifically to help those who maybe not residing in Canada today. So normally at traditional bank branches, traditional bank staff don't have the opportunity to open these accounts until have proof of residence and you're actually in Canada. But to my understanding, there should be teams that are specific to helping those who are not residing here. Now, a lot of the time, what they will require when you are booking these appointments to inquire if you can open an account, they would require some information on yourself. So first would be, your name, your contact details. They would also require to know why you need the account opened. So if you're an international student who's just at home right now, awaiting approval to come to Canada, that would typically be your rationale to open the account in order to submit money into Canada to pay your tuition costs, the residence costs when you arrive, etc. And what they would do is they would typically refer you to this group of advisors, and these groups would reach out to you to determine what else would be required in terms of verifying your IDs, your international status, your confirmation of enrollment, etc. So it would be more of a referral to this dedicated team, but they're experts in international banking, and they're the ones who would typically open these when clients are not in the country or prospective customers are not here in Canada itself.
Perfect. And do we have a question from chat as well? And the question is, if I accidentally disclose personal bank details, what is the typical procedure to follow after I realize this? That's a very, very good question. We see that almost every day. So the first step you want to do is call your bank, let them know, speak to an advisor, try to jot down the as much detail as possible so that the advisor can access how much information you've given out, and if it's enough for you to just have to close your current accounts and open up new ones, or maybe you have only disclosed partial information that's not of danger to your personal finances. So the first is call your bank, let them know what have happened, and provide as much detail as possible so that they can make the best judgment and provide the best advice going forward. And so we have a question from Siddharth. Is there a benefit to using a credit card over a debit card? Yeah, so I guess the first benefit is that using a credit card and making sure to pay it on time will help you start building your credit report in Canada, whereas using a debit card, it doesn't have to do with it doesn't help you to build your credit report. And then, of course, the second benefit is that using a debit card, you have to make sure that you have cash in your account at that moment when you complete the transaction. Otherwise, it will not go through. Whereas a credit card, as long as you have that credit limit available to you, you'll be able to make the purchase now and then pay it later. So another benefit will be using a debit card it's similar to using cash. You're not getting any rewards, whereas most credit cards will offer rewards. They have their own reward programs, whether it's to earn points every time you make a purchase, and those points can be later redeemed to gift cards for travel or to pay back your credit card even. Or some credit cards might offer cashback rewards where, say, if you spend $100 at a grocery store, the credit card will provide you with $2 in terms of cash rewards. And as you use your credit card more, you can build up that cash rewards and then later on redeem it to pay back your credit card. So whereas debit card, you don't earn anything in terms of rewards. It's just a convenient way of not carrying cash. And depending on what type of student account that you have, you might be limited to a number of debit transactions per month. Typically, I believe the free student accounts will only include 25 debit transactions. So if you if you use your card every day in a month, of course you're going to have some extra transactions that's not included in the free ones, and you might get additional charge to that. Whereas compared to a credit card, as long as you have that credit limit available to you, you can use it, and there is no limit on how many times you can swipe or transact your card using a credit card. So I hope that answered the question. So that's some of the benefits, but of course, using a credit card can be dangerous at times if you have a very high limit, where it's really easy to just to impulse shop, where you see something you want, you just swipe, and even though you might not have enough in your account to pay it later, with a credit card, it's very easy to overspend, and that's where your budgeting and managing your expenses comes in handy, just to make sure that whatever you put on your credit card, that you know for sure that you'll be able to pay it back later, and not miss a payment.
I see. I think we have a question from Maggie here. Can we use new college's address as a required address when you apply for a card? So in my mind, if you are residing with a new college for your residence, that would be your residential address when you do arrive and you are living here in Canada. So I would say that does make sense to keep that as your residential address. However, I don't believe you should use this as a residential address to apply for a credit card before coming to Canada. I believe a restriction for all credit in Canada would be you have to be residing here to gain a credit card. So even if you can get your bank accounts opened with non-resident account opening teams while you are home, typically you would have to wait to open that credit card in person when you have arrived. So that is something that you would have to take into consideration of, is when you do arrive, and then you'd be able to get that credit account opened, or the credit card opened. And I think we also have a question from Timmy here. Will your credit report in Canada transfer to other countries such as the United States? So Timmy, no, unfortunately not. Credit reports in Canada are handled by typically two different companies and are specific to Canada. So the information that they control and collect within the country is only kept within the Canadian version. So two of those companies, one would be TransUnion and the other would be FX. Now, these companies may have operations in the United States or in other countries abroad, but the information on your report is specific to whatever you've done or however you paid your bills specifically in Canada. If you've resided in the States before or you plan to do it in the future, unfortunately, that information won't carry over, and you may need to build further history in the country you want to live in later on. So it only counts in Canada currently. It doesn't transfer across borders.
Yeah, and then just to add to that answer as well, I do believe in some cases they might, if you're applying for maybe a mortgage or a loan, they might take a look at your be able to take a look at your Canadian credit history to whether approve or take it in consideration. But I don't know. Like Adam said, I'm pretty sure that you won't be able to transfer your credit history from Canada to the US.
From Nicholas. So Nicholas, you currently have a TD Bank account in the United States. What do you need to open one in Toronto? So in order to open a checkings account in Canada, I understand that some banks may have operations in other countries. But because they are in a different country, it is actually a separate institution owned by the same company in the end. So TD Bank in the States is a different TD Bank than in Canada. RBC, we have an affiliate in the States as well, which unfortunately is just a different bank, all owned by the same company. So how it works is that, yes, you may have an account in the United States, but when you come to Canada, you would actually have to open up a brand new profile with the Canadian version of that bank. Because of privacy issues, a lot of the time they don't share information between the two institutions. So you still would need to come to Canada with all those requirements, so your IDs, study permits, proof of residency, etc., to be able to open a TD account within Canada itself. Oh, thank you, Maggie, for your question. To Maggie's question, are international students eligible to apply for loans in Canada? So Maggie, to my understanding, typically international students, when they come to Canada, there are certain things they can apply for in terms of credit. There are some restrictions because of your temporary residency status in the country. Typically, you're here for whatever period of time your study permit does state. And Because of this, because there's the opportunity for you to leave the country and go back home. Normally, things like student loans are not applicable or are not as easy to get as something like a student credit card would be. Now, some banks may allow you to apply for student loans as an international student, but to do this, you may require a resident or a permanent resident or citizen of Canada to actually sign with you on that loan or to have it joint. And some banks will allow this to give you the opportunity to finance your school here, but would require somebody to almost like sponsor you and be joint on that loan. That way, in the chance that you were ever to leave the country and go back home, that there is still somebody who is permanent to Canada who would be responsible for the repayment of that loan.
All right, great. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to post them. But otherwise, I just want to take this time to thank you, Adam. Thank you, Kai, for this wonderful presentation and for helping even me learn a whole bunch of new things today. It's been really wonderful having you here today.
Oh, thank you, Tyler. I do believe we have a couple of more information that we want to share with the students as well.
Yes, please.
So guys, I need to bring up just there is an upcoming presentation that is supported by RBC called RBC Future Ready. It's a presentation that's going to take place on August 26th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, it's a great opportunity just to learn and to, take advantage of this time you have before classes start. It's meant for those who want to learn from, these top leading athletes and those who want to just get on track with their learning. I know, this past summer, with all the trips that you've had, development, it's a great session to learn from professionals and how they've breached the gap of getting into jobs after they went through education, or they've done, past ethics. If you look at the Olympian and swimmer for Canada, so she's going to be on the presentation just chatting about how she used her ability as a athlete to further her development and find that job afterwards. So it's a great presentation. If anyone has the opportunity, please feel free to jump on YouTube Live.
And for those basketball and hockey fans, Pascal Siakam will be joining and Jonathan Taves as well. So definitely tune in. It's going to be a good session.
I personally can't wait. And guys, like we did say, today we spoke about financial literacy, but we also did preach on the idea of helping students, gain those practical skills and experience, grow their networks, and get more involved on campus, and of course, stay mentally well. So we have a website that we've developed called Future Launch at Home. And it's just self-learning resource library where students can learn about those 4 different subjects on their own while they're at home. A great opportunity to gain some new skills or further your network. So we feel free that if you guys want to access the website's right up here, or on the next slide, we will have our contact emails. So please, everybody in this session, write them down if you need any further guidance or support, whether it's now, tomorrow, or 6 months in the future. We're always going to be on campus, and we're always here to provide that guidance to you guys.
All right, sorry, back to you, Tyler.
Great. All right. Well, thank you again, Kai. Thank you again, Adam, for joining us today. The recording for this session will be available on Presence either today or tomorrow, as well as the recordings for the other sessions that we've had this week. If you had any trouble using the link to sign in today, or you put your name or any issues like that, don't worry. If we have your name, then we can find your student number. That's not a problem. And we will also be posting a sign-in link on Presence where you could retroactively sign in for the other sessions you attended, or you can even indicate that you watched them on YouTube, not live, and that's perfectly fine as well. So great. It's been wonderful having you all here today. Thank you again, Kai. Thank you again, Adam. It was a wonderful presentation. I know the students had a lot of questions and you guys had amazing answers, and I'm sure it was very, very helpful. And we'll see you again tomorrow for a session about study permits and your university health insurance. Thank you.